I'm Jay-Z.
I'm Daniel.
This is Just My DIY.
Today's project is truly state-of-the-art.
More specifically, it's a states visited travel map, something we've been wanting to make for the longest time.
So we would like to say thank you to Hiipoo for sponsoring this video, as well as providing these awesome sublimation products.
This project took so many different disciplines. It has laser cutting, sublimation, resin pouring, and woodworking.
So we probably should get to work.
Absolutely. First, we start with laser cutting and engraving. Now, we're using two different boards for this project. So whiteboard, blackboard combo from Home Depot, as well as an actual Unisub sublimation board.
They are too wide to go in the Glowforge as is, so we pull out the circular saw and trim them down. We also need to mask them to prevent any charring and burn marks from actually staining the boards we're working on.
Because we definitely can't sand these boards, so masking is necessary.
It's important when you're masking to try and get all your air bubbles out and trim any spare bits, as we don't like, I think it's called floppy bits.
Flappy bits inside the laser.
On the Unisub, it's also, we don't like having like plastic we don't know inside the laser being lasered, so we peel that off and apply masking to that as well.
We'll link our masking as well as our squeegee down below. But the next thing we need to do is get those Pro Shields off of the Glowforge.
Pull out our Husky adjustable height so we can safely support our board sliding in through the Pro.
Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the design. We did find the basic state outlines on Etsy. We created our own labels inside Photoshop because we like this font. We did turn that Photoshop file into an SVG using PNG to SVG. And then we dragged them inside the Glowforge software. We made a few modifications to that state outline file. We deleted some of the islands inside of Inkscape when we brought it into Glowforge. We added outlines around the states that had little bits that we knew were going to cause a problem inside the laser. So once we got those outlines done, we added a rectangle around each of the files. And now we're going to show you our cut settings. So for the Blackboard, it is 0.19 inches deep. We like to put that depth in there because that gives us a true representation on screen of what everything's looking like inside the machine. The cut for the rectangle is speed 132 at full power, 1 pass. And then the engraving, because we wanted a really deep engraving, is speed 500, power 70, lines per inch 270. So we need to get these turned correctly for our pass-through. So once we turn them 90 degrees, we're going to go ahead and ignore the state outlines because those aren't going to be done yet, and focus on the engraving board. Now once we turn on the Pro Pass-Through feature up there through the menu, we realize everything's a little too big. So we line everything back up and shrink it down until it's the right size before we go and hit print.
Print is going to take not 1 minute and 55 seconds, but 1 hour and 55 minutes for this section. So we push the go button and let it get to work. We don't like to leave it unattended, so we decide maybe we should have a few meals up here. This is some omelets and tater tots, a little avocado on the side.
And you can actually see the real speed of this. I mean, that laser head has to go a very long way on this file, which is why it takes so long. So about 5 hours later,
we actually pull the finished engraving process out and say, ooh, and shove the next board in.
Now we're ready to move on to the Unisub board. This one only took about 20 minutes. We'll include all of our settings down below because we don't show them here. Good to note, we actually popped out the states before we pulled it out of the laser because they were causing issues getting it out. But here's everything.
Now we need to use a wet rag to clean out as much of the charring as possible. It just helps keep things clean on both the outline side and the actual state cutouts.
Once everything was clean, we're ready to sublimate the states.
It's a state of sublimation. Hiipoo, of course, provided these things to us, the ink refill for our 15,000 EcoTank. So we're going to just go ahead and open that up and show you how easy it is.
We've been using Hiipoo ink for about a year, but this was a great point for us to top off our tanks.
So obviously we uncap the cap. We open the port. And these things are designed to be upside down, plug in, and not drip anything. You can see we tap it off and there's nothing there. We wipe off around the nozzle inlet on the ET and you can see a little bit, but you know.
We love the design of these bottles because it makes it easy to fill and refill the tanks, and you can lift them straight up and nothing's coming out.
So we finish all of the 4 colors. It'll tell you when it's done. So you go ahead and close it up, exit out a few menus, and grab your 105 gram sublimation paper from Hiipoo. This is 11 by 17.
It is.
And you'll know what's front and back. You can't see it on the camera, but there's a little Hiipoo watermark on the back.
This is the file that we're actually going to use to sublimate onto the states. Now we do warp it around the states to give that concentration of color, and then don't forget to flip for sublimation. Because this is so large, we split this into quadrants, and we're going to turn this file 90 degrees now, and we're going to crop around our first quadrant. This is how we do a tiled printing using Photoshop. So now once we go into the print settings, we're going to make sure we have 11 by 17 paper, and then for the actual print settings,
we're going best quality on premium presentation matte.
So once we print that out, it's going to come out of the printer a little duller than you see on screen. That's totally normal. It will brighten up once you press it. We will show you what we do to print the next one. We undo that crop, turn off that quadrant, turn on the next quadrant, and then crop around it. We're just going to tell you repeat that for all sections. You don't need to see it each time.
So to prepare for the actual sublimation, of course, we need to unmask the states for the quadrant we're working in, and then clean us off of the states. We touch them a lot, and we're greasy, dirty humans. Our taping process is kind of like a curtain drape. We tape the top to the paper and then connect all the states by an enormous amount of heat-resistant tape. This way we can lift it up, yet peel it easily from one side, as we do like to do a hot, fast peel.
One thing we realized that it's actually better to do the heat press in sections. So while we had these larger sections to print out, we wanted to work in smaller sections inside the heat press. So we lift one up and flip it over. Do a quick check again, since it's just tape at the top, we're able to do that easy peel on it. We have 2 sheets of blowout paper underneath when we put it in the press, and then 2 sheets on top.
This is 400 degrees for 70 seconds, and we give it a good medium to heavy pressure. And when it's done, we lift it up. It's hot, so have your heat glove.
And we do a fast hot peel, and then leave all the states on a mat to cool. Once everything is sublimated, you can really start to see that rainbow come together, and then we're ready to move on to the next step.
You really can see they are too cool. UV resin inlay. We first need to take some old toothbrushes and clean out, again, the charring.
We didn't want any of this char floating inside our resin. You can see these things are dirty.
So we have the Total Boat UV Cure Clear Resin and some black diamond gold pigment. We don't want to use too much in here. It can
block the light. With UV resin, you need light penetration for it to actually cure, so it's really careful balance of opacity versus what can actually cure.
We have these syringes that we're going to use to inlay into the engravings. And at first you can see we're taking our time. The needle makes it very possible, so we put in enough, but we do not want it to dome. We don't want things lifting the states as we put them in over the letters. So we use it to try and guide the coloring of the engraving in. And at first it is a little slow.
But you do get used to it. It does go a little faster, thank goodness, because there are 100 letters to do overall.
So you can see a little speed up process here, but we did get quicker and quicker. And
one thing that we noticed was that this first layer actually wanted to soak in a little bit into the letters. It might actually have been good just to do a clear first round, but we do 2 layers of this, cure it with a UV light each time, and the UV light's setting for 60 seconds each time.
Now we're going to unmask the board. This is going to take a minute because we have to peel out around all the states and, you know, the resin gluing it down a little bit. And when we do, we discover that there is some runoffs of the ink onto the blackboard. We don't really want that, so we discover that some rubbing alcohol and a microfiber cloth polishes it up pretty nice.
Which was a great save because we cannot sand this board. So. Yay! Now it's time to build the frame.
Now this is going to be a very simple frame using a 1x3 from Home Depot again. We are mitering the edges at 45 so we can have a nice clean meat.
And once we get all of those boards cut, we need to create a channel for the boards to actually sit in.
So we remember the depth, the 0.13 and the 0.19. We get the router bit set to about that, and you can see me bravely free-handing the router.
Show off.
With any mistakes, we're actually cleaned up with a chisel. We did a camera fail on that one. My bad.
Yeah, camera fail. So for the glue up, we're just using some wood glue. We like to tape the corners, but we're also using this guide that we have in the shop to make sure we're fully at a 45 degree. Once the glue is in those mitered edges, we clamp it and let it set for a couple of hours.
We sand everything down into some smoothness, any extra glue sticking out, anything really, just sand it. You kind
to
of
make it nice and smooth.
We also wanted this pile of dust so that we can make our own wood filler.
For any little gaps that may be in the edges there, so we put that in, and then you'll want to sand it down really far. We ended up doing another sanding with the power sander past this just to make sure that the stain that we're now putting on is able to soak in properly.
Yep.
We do not 1 layer, but 2 layers of stain on this frame. And then we're ready to tackle the box for the extra states because we haven't been to all 50 yet. So first we're going to create a little label for our box. We are printing it out, of course, with the Hippo ink and paper and cutting a custom shape on the Glowforge. We're going to clean that up and press this little design on there. We don't need to heat up the big heat press because those take so long to heat up, so we're going to use this Hippo mini heat press and press it for 60 to 70 seconds on high temperature.
Of course, it's going to be hot, so you probably should be wearing gloves.
You should be.
But it came out brilliant, of course.
We did cheat and buy this box at Michael's, but, you know, all good. So we stained it black and then added the little adventure tag to the box using super glue.
Now, got to put it all together. That means unmasking one more thing. And this was a lot easier. You just get the little pieces out between the states, and we get prepared to overlay it over the blackboard. The application of super glue is fast as it does start to cure pretty quickly. And once it's curing quickly, you got to put this in place correctly and then hope that you had it right.
And press it down and hold it for probably about a minute or 2.
Now these are some
swivels
from a previous picture frame that we pulled off and are using for this one. No power drills or anything like that here. You'll just simply ruin stuff. So we just hand tighten this. We want them to swivel, but we want some resistance. And of course the hanging apparatus we want to be kind of centered and level, so trying to use some accurate measurements.
Then we just flip the boards upside down, of course, into place, turn our swivels, do any necessary tightening, and then we get our first look at how this is really coming together. And how good does this look?
We could stop now, it would look pretty awesome, but it wouldn't tell a story.
That's true. So we grab our states and some double-sided tape. You could also use some super glue here. We did not. We just went with the double-sided tape and start putting everything in. Because the Unisub board is glossy, we are wiping off our fingerprints, which we decided to do just at the end after a while. So we're adding in all the states that we've been to, which turns out was quite a few.
Yeah, it's like it's almost filled in.
But there's still more to go, which we put inside our box before hanging our awesome state travel map.
We were so excited to see this travel map come together using the variety of disciplines that we did. We would like to say thank you to Hiipoo for making the video possible.
We've truly loved all of the hiipoo products that we have used throughout our time working with them, from their sublimation materials to their other crafting products as well. Links to everything that we use for this project will be listed down below. And also in the description is a link to our Glowforge referral code. If you're in the market for a Glowforge, you can get up to $500 off your purchase, as well as give us something in return.
So feel free to leave us a comment in the comment line telling us about your favorite state of travel. If you like the video, give it the thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell.
And don't forget to check out our blog at justmydiy.com. Thanks for watching.